Welcome to day 15 of 100 days of iOS challenge. So far, we have worked with data types like int, strings, collections like arrays and dictionaries, and many more. But in real world apps, we don't actually store data one by one. Most of the time, we have data like products, which have product name, image, and description, then specifications, and so many things in one product. So if we have so many data related to one product, if we start creating variables for all of them, then it will become very messy. If it is one product, then it is fine. But if there are multiple products, then the code will become very messy. So for this only, we want a better way to model the data. And that is where structs come in. In today's lecture, we are going to learn one of the very important topics in Swift, which is struct. And structs are something that we use to model data. Structs are safe, fast, and heavily used in Swift as well as SwiftUI. All these screens that we create in SwiftUI are actually struct. If you understand structs well, a lot of Swift will start making sense. So let's jump into Xcode to understand what structs are and how we can use them. Why do we need structs? So let's try to understand this with an example. Let's say I have some user data that I want to store. I want to store the name, age, and email of the user. So let's say now this is data of one user. Now you see that the data is scattered. It is very hard to pass around. If I have to pass this data to some function, I will have to create three parameters, name, age, and email, and then pass it around. If I have to pass it down to 5 to 6 functions or classes, I will have to pass them one by one. So the data is very scattered and it is very hard to pass around, and there is no clear relationship between them. So these are the issues we currently face when we have to store some relevant data. So in this case, we can create a struct named user, where we can say we will have three variables: name, which will be of type string, age, which will be of type int, and another one, email, which will also be of type string. Let's remove this comma. So now all these three values we wrapped inside a struct. Struct, which means structures. Structures are used to group related data. Because these name, age, email represented a user, so we created a struct named user. This improves readability and safety. Now if I have to store these data like Rahul, his age, and his email ID, I can say where user is equal to user. Then you will see that in second line we have name, age, email. So we'll click this. This is called initializer. And in name we can pass name, which is Rahul, his age, which is 25, and email, which is rahul@mail.com. And now in one variable, which is user, we have all the data, name, age, as well as email. If we want to access the name or age or email, we can just say print user dot email. You will see we got rahul@mail.com. Just like email, we can even say name or age and it will work similarly. So earlier our data was scattered. By using struct, we wrapped it into one single entity, which is user. And then we can create a new user by using the initializer of the struct. This initializer is something that when you declare a structure, it creates itself by default. So it says whatever values that you are asking for, you can pass it when you are creating the user object. Now let's say we want to modify the name. Currently the name is Rahul. We want to change it to, so we want to change the name of the user to John. Now let's print again to see what is the new name. And you will see the new name is John. So the value got updated in this user, and we were able to update it just by saying user.name is equal to John. This is how simple it is when we are using struct. One more thing, to change the name variable inside the structure, make sure that this name is a variable and not a let constant. If I made it let, then you will see that here we are getting an error, cannot assign to a property, name is a let constant. So make sure that this is a variable and not a constant. Similarly, here also we have declared user as a variable. If we would have said let user, then In this case also, we cannot change it because this let means that user is a constant and we cannot change the value of a constant. So that is why if you have to do some modification in the structure, you will have to make it var. So you saw how we can create a structure. Not only variables, we can even create functions inside structures. I can say function greet, print, hello, print hello, name. This function which we are creating inside the structure, it is able to access the name parameter. So whatever value that we are passing here, we are passing Rahul here. If I call user dot greet, then this function will be called, and for the name variable it will pick the value whatever we have stored in this user property, and you will see hello John is printed. Why? Because in this user object the name of the user is John, which we provided here. So when we create a function inside our structure, it is able to access the variables which are present in the structures. Structs are value type. What we mean by this value type? Let's see. Let's assume we have a variable named new user, and inside this I stored the user variable which we had. So all the data of this user will be copied to this new user. If we see the name of the new user, you see a new user dot name is John, because user dot name was also John. Now let's say for the new user I changed the name Michael, and now let's again print new user dot name and user dot name. So you will see new user dot name is Michael because we set the value as Michael above, and for user dot name we have the value as John. So structures are called value types because they are copied, not shared. When we are saying copied, we mean that when you are creating a new user and copying a previous structure inside it, you are creating a new copy of that data. Let's take an example of a photocopy machine. You have your original documents, then you go and take a photocopy out of it, and you have a new document. Now, whatever changes that you do in this new document, that won't affect the original document because you have a new copy of it. Struct works the same way. When you have a original object and you stored it inside a new object, then whatever changes that you are making in the new object won't affect the original object. So we change the name of the new user to Michael, but user.name is still John. The value is not affected in the original object which we created. But for the new user, we have successfully changed the value to Michael. Please understand this carefully, and this is one of the most important interview questions that are generally asked in every interviews. In next lecture, when we will be discussing classes, we will also see what reference types are. Now let's see how we can create multiple users and store them in a collection. So let's say we have a variable named user data, which is a type of array, and in this array we will store user data. So we are saying it is the array of user structures. So if I have to create this array, I will say user, then we will have to provide the name, age and email. Let's say John, age let's say 23, and email as john@email.com. Similarly, we can create another struct. So this is how we can even create an array of user object. So this is how we can create even an array of user structures. So we have 3 user data stored inside a user data array. And if we want to print the name of all the users, we can just say for user in. Let us just comment all the print statements. So we have the result now. You will see John, Johnson and Rahul. The name of all the users have been printed. This is how real apps work. In real apps also, we have a collection of structures, and we use for in loop to access the elements one by one. So I hope you have understood this. Let's go through it again once. So structs are important when we have to wrap the related fields into one named object. So we had three variables, name, age, email of one user. So instead of storing them in variables one by one, we created a structure named user and we declared all of these variables inside it. Then we were easily able to create a variable name user, and we were able to provide name, age and email to it. This made our code clean, and all the related data was wrapped into one single user. Then we saw how we can access the variables using the dot name, and we also saw how we can create a function inside a structure so that we can even access the internal variables and do operations on them. Then we saw how structures are value types. We are able to make changes in the new variable without affecting the previous one. Why? Because we have a copy of new data, and in this new data we can make changes. Then we saw how we can use structures inside a collection. These are very handy, like even when we are communicating with the server and receiving some data from the API, most of the time we are mapping the data that we have received into our structures, and then we are accessing it using foreign loop. One more thing I wanted to discuss is you will see here when we are declaring the variable, we can even give a default value too. If I set a default value of Keshu, then at the time of creating this object, you don't need to specify the name again. Like if you want, you can create. If you don't provide it, then also it is fine. It will by default pick this name which you provided as default value. So if you see here, on line number 20, we created user variable and we didn't provide any name. So by default, it will pick the value which we have assigned at the time of declaring this parameter. So we have Keshu stored here now. As we can see, print user.name, and this is printing Keshu. Let's reset it back. Also, you might be confused that how did we get this functionality? We only created a user structure, and how we are able to pass this. So this is actually called an initializer. If you try to write it inside the structure, you will say init. Swift will auto suggest this code, and this code is actually called initializer. By initializer, it means that our struct has three properties: name, age and email. And whenever you are creating an object of user, here we are creating the object. So whenever you are creating the object, it is saying that initialize the object with name, age and email. So that is why here also we have written user, which is this, and then after this init parameters, and we are passing these values in name, age and email. So we have passed the name value here in this name, and on line number 16 we are saying self.name. Self means structure. Structure.name is equal to name. So whatever value that we have passed here, we are saying that store that name into self.name, which is this variable. Similarly for age also, we are passing 25 here. So we are saying store this age value that we have received from here into this self.age. Self.age means this value. Similarly for email also, whatever we have received here, we are saying store it into this self.email. We do not need to create this initializer, because when we create a structure, initializer is created by default. Alright, so that wraps up our today's session on structures. Make sure you have clearly understood it. You will be using structures quite a lot in Swift and SwiftUI. In the next lesson, we are going to talk about classes. Classes are also used to model data just like structures, but they are different with structures in many ways. Actually, this is one of the most popular interview questions, like what is the difference between structure and classes. So our next video, we are going to learn about classes, and after that we are going to learn about how they both are different. I hope you have enjoyed this lecture. If you have, then please do like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And please let me know in the comments if you have completely watched this video. If you have any suggestion for me, you are welcome to provide it in the comment section. Thank you guys. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in next one. Thank you.